Good morning, everyone. Ellen Sutter of ESP Presents and ESP Book Chats, where we bring page turners your way. Let me see. Dr. Velma, if you're out there, come on and join the show. You'll see me live here. Come on in the room. Let's see if I can share it out. Let's see. I am here, guys. Hopefully you can hear me. I don't come on this one much, but hopefully you can see me here. Dr. Velma. Again, I'm Ellen Sutter of ESP Presents and ESP Book Chats, where we bring page turners your way. Today, this morning, our guest is going to be Dr. Velma Bagby. If you guys see this, go ahead and share it out. This is a different feature for me, so I'm not good with this feature here. I don't see how I can share out. Let's see. Don't want to do anything different. Let's see if this can be shared out this way. This is a new thing for me. Let's see. Can I make comments here? This is just all new, this feature here. Dr. Velma, I hope that's you. This is a new feature for me. From my end, I don't see much to do. Let's see. Come on in the room. I have it open where the guests can come in the room. And just hit the camera. Oops. I'm sorry. Thank you guys for coming. Dr. Velma, if you're there, come on in the room. Hopefully I got it where people can come in the room. I see that there are two up there. Type something, guys, so I know you're in the room. Wendy, I see that you're in the room. Please share to Dr. Velma if you're able to see her. This side of the feed is real new to me. It's not like the Instagram where I can add people. Thank you so much for coming on, Wendy. You're here. Dr. Velma asked to get on my video. On my side, I see a little camera on the end. And thank you for being here. Hopefully you're on your cell phone, because I don't see anything to bring you in. And request to be on this this video, like Whitney, I see hers. She have where I can bring her up, but I don't see yours where I can bring you on. So request to be on my video. I have an iPhone. There you go. I see you right there. I mean, the link where I can bring you on. Sending you requests. It's adding. Come on in the room. Again, good morning to you guys. This is part 2, talking with Dr. Velma. Her book, The Wrong. Uh-oh, what happened? Anything happened? There you go. I don't know anything about this feature in the Facebook. I don't go too often on this side. I used to go to my book side. So I wanted to do it where it say ESP Presents. Was it hard getting in?
Yes, and I see my picture is gone. Do you still see me?
I see you.
Oh, it's blank for me.
Yeah, I see you in your background.
Oh, now I see it. Okay, I see. Remove the link.
Oh.
That's what it is. Okay, now.
It's always problems. Good problems.
That's okay. We're here now.
Yeah, so
hi, Miss Wendy.
Yep, Wendy is there. I got a chance, Dr. Velma, to meet the Black Widow.
You did?
Yes. I met the black widow, and I also grazed. I also got a chance to see the antelope.
What?
And also the hyena. The
Girl.
anatomy is just like, it blew me away.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
want to just start in chapter 2. We have Marcus, poor Marcus John.
Ooh.
What? We'll start there. Tell folks who you are, and we'll just talk about John and some things. You know, Dr. Velma, you don't know, but I'm going to tell you now. When I got to Marcus John's story, almost through my tablet, because I got it on Kindle, I had to walk away. In fact, I was on the plane, just traveling, going through, and I was just so mad. If I threw it out the plane, I wouldn't have it no more. And I just couldn't believe the stuff she was doing.
Yeah.
Have the folks, those who know you, may not know you. I'm pretty sure you have trailblazed the way. And the book is not even out yet, right?
Right.
And we're already upset.
Coming out next month. I had quite a few. No, I had one person call and said, hey, I was the queen bee. I didn't have the children, but I definitely didn't know what I was doing. So I'm loving that part of it. Just
Okay,
people
that's
identifying
good
with some of the things. I hope that it's the same as with the fish analogy. So hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Velma Bagby. I'm an award-winning best-selling author of now 17 books. I started late in life in 2018 at the age of 62. So I'm thankful for what I've been able to accomplish, but I believe I found the lane that I'm supposed to be in, thanks to all of those who have been following me and reading my books. And so now one novel that I thought was going to be one novel has turned into a series, and I'm so grateful for that. And thank you for having me on your show, Ellen. I'm looking forward to our discussions.
Yes, yes, yes. So Marcus, let's just backdrop with Marcus.
Okay.
Marcus, you know, women always want a good man, but they don't know what to do with a good man. They seriously don't, because we're so used to men, just failing us to the point that
Yeah.
if we do get a good man, we're waiting. When is he going to crack? You know,
Yeah,
when is this going to
that
happen?
really is the whole problem, Miss Ellen, is that I'm trying to get my book in the background. There we go. We just tend to ignore some of the things that we used to be trained to look for, and then we accept things that we used to be trained to just reject, those red flags. And so having to include some of those elements in each of the stories was important to me so that people could see what we didn't need to do. And even the fact that Grayson talks about that women have always been good at examining the heart of the man, and have gotten away from it because we've become just like the men used to be, focused on what you see and not on what you have learned about the person. And so it was really interesting to create these stories, but from a male perspective. And I got a chance to talk to some of my male colleagues, family members, my husband, men he's spoken to get some ideas of some of the challenges they face. And so it was very easy for me to create these stories because I know some of these women.
Wow. Wow. Because I'm hearing women, like you say, they used to vet, they used to be all
Yeah.
about the heart. And I'm hearing women say, oh, no, I got to have sex with him first. And if the sex is not good, I'm not moving on forward. And
You
that
know,
pains me for a woman to say she have to have sex first. But it doesn't, a man knows if he wants the girl, he knows he's just going to have sex with her. He knows if he's going to marry her or not. He knows really up front the first 6 months to a year. He knows already. He already knows.
well,
And
first of
so,
all, you're going into a relationship based on conditions. The
right.
conditions are like a contract. Marriage has nothing to do with a contract. And if you go in there with a contract, basically making these demands, you've already thrown your marriage out with the baby in the bathwater.
Mm-hmm.
You really have. Because it's
Mm-hmm.
not about a contract. It really is about a covenant. And so there's trust there. There's love there. You give and you do because you love that other person. But if you walking in there with a contract and conditions that, you know, you're willing to accept or not accept, the minute those conditions are broken, then the marriage is over, and it was never intended to be based on that. Because we all have shortcomings, but you have to understand that a shortcoming is different from a big red flag.
That is so true. And with marriage, we have people who want to be married, who long to be married. And I like the idea of Grayson. He's showing the men. He's having a conference with them, putting them on the red hot carpet. If you're not going to be serious, if you're not going to tell the truth, don't even sign up. Don't even sign up, because we're not playing with you. And so when he talks about each story, and Wendy was saying in the comment section here that she felt sorry for the men that were coming boldly with their story.
Yes.
And so
yes. Can you imagine?
They were coming so bold with their story. And so now we want to talk about Marcus. That man worked his finger to the bone, or worked his finger to the grave.
And the kind of man most women are looking for.
Yes.
The hardworking provider. Make sure you have everything you need. But this woman just took it to a whole new level.
She did. Let's talk about his backdrop. Let's talk about Marcus. Give us the backdrop of his character, and let's go for it, because I'm already getting heated up at her. I don't even want to say her name. Netra. Is it neat? How you pronounce it? Netra. Okay, let's go.
Well, first of all, we have to get to the point that he's dead at this point. So the only one that can share his story is Pastor Grayson, and he invites his brother in to talk about some of the challenges the family had. Even when they first met her, they didn't like her. And the fact that he described his brother as someone who had a good heart. Everybody in town knew his brother because he was always helpful and supportive to even his neighbors, the seniors, all of that. All of the great qualities you would want to find. But he set his sights on the wrong person and didn't examine that woman's heart at all, or look into her history about how she was raised, you know, how many people in her family, all of those kind of things. And so he ends up with what he has. And what he has, in order to keep her, he has to, you know, work these multiple jobs and never get rest for himself because he's so busy providing for all her demands. Yeah, you're right, Wendy. She was cold-hearted.
She was. She didn't care.
So when you look at the nature of a black widow spider, they mate with the male and then kill him after she gets pregnant, after she gets what she wants. So they end up killing them. And so that's pretty much what this person did with Marcus. She just ran him to the ground.
Now, one thing that made me, like I said, I wanted to throw the book away. Just throw it. I just wanted to just throw it as far as, but, you know, airplane, it probably caused an explosion, you know, from gravity. And I was just so mad. One of the things, you know, he's 45 years old. He worked 2 jobs, 2 jobs, took care of the family, took care of the kids and all that stuff. But what got me was that this man is dead. Before the family had to do a well-being checkup on him.
Yeah.
And so here she is. She knows she's working him to the death. And they had to do a well-being checkup on him to find out what's happening. Yeah. It's like 3 days ago he died. What?
She wouldn't let him in. She wouldn't let the family in. They were concerned because in a small town, they heard the rumors of his health because everybody goes to the same doctor. So they knew about the fact that he was having some challenges. He was having, I believe, some challenges with his heart. So they knew about that. They knew he wasn't feeling well and was trying to visit him to check in on him. And when she wouldn't let them in, knowing at that moment that he was already deceased, they went and got the police to do a welfare check. And that's when they were able to discover that he had already passed. And I thought that was pretty cruel.
Very cruel. Very cruel. Just no. I mean, what are you doing with him in the house all those days? You're looking at him dead, making sure he's dead, counting the money in front of him. What are you doing?
All of that and checking the insurance policy to make sure everything was okay.
Speaking of insurance policy, when they read the will.
Yep.
And you're right.
Yep.
She was thinking of that when you said he was a good man to stay as long as he did.
Oh yeah.
So he was
Yes.
trying to do. He was trying to apply those Bible principles as a
He
husband.
was. He had a good heart, and I think what I had hoped to do in some of these stories is to present the fact that there are good men out there.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, there are not some good women out there either, and we always focus on the number of men that are out there that are not good men. And she said
So
that
that
insurance
insurance
policy.
policy was the icing on the cake. And I love the fact that he left it. So while she was doing what she's doing, his MO to me, reading the story as a reader, was that he was preparing for his children who he loved and made sure she's gonna do this. I love her, but I'm gonna make sure I take care of my kids. You know, a long time ago, she already showed me, you know, what the hand she was dealt to him.
Right.
And so his brother, and so one of the things that we talk about, we're in the world we live in now, when they talk about role of a man,
Mm-hmm.
and what we hear most is the role of, like, what do you do in the house, the chores in the house. That's what they talk about. Well, there's no male and female. No, he can wash dishes like you wash dishes. That's true.
Right.
But what they're
Right.
not focusing on, Dr. Velma, is the role that God ordained the man to do.
Yeah.
And so you broke it down, and Garrison was broken it down. Grayson was breaking it down in the
Mm-hmm.
story of what a man should be. If you could go
Yeah.
back to that, and he told those principles of what that man should be. If you could go back on that and tell us about that, and then they will know what this man, what the man role is, a protector. You
He
know, those things that they were
talked
talking
about
about.
the being the prophet, the priest, the
Yes.
king, the threefold office that Christ had. He was the prophet, priest, and king. And so he also talked about it. He would occasionally stop and he would do what he would call check the temperature in the room
Yes.
to make sure everybody knew God.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was the place that he was coming from God's word.
Yes.
And so he needed to make sure everybody was on point with where he was coming from. So he would stop occasionally to make sure. And so that he can then begin to present the principles that men should be aware of. And my favorite quote from him was, "You should be looking for a ruby," is what he said.
Yes.
"But you should also be at ruby level."
That's
So don't
right.
look for a ruby if you haven't prepared yourself to be at that level. So what I love about that particular presentation is it's very similar to what we talked about in the first book to women. Stop looking for that pie in the sky and make sure you have your stuff together first.
Exactly.
And that's what he's saying to the men. Make sure you have your things together. And a lot of these men, because of the presentation many of these men had, some just gave up on it and decided to focus on just serving God. Others wanted to try it again. And so that was what Grayson was trying to present to them. Again, same idea for the women. Let go of all your past, let go of all your hurt, let it go, and don't let it interfere with what you're getting ready to do.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of what he talked about was red flags again for the men. Look for the things that you should not continue that relationship beyond. And again, the red flag, he explained to them, red is retreat, extremely dangerous. You should. He breaks down the acronym.
Retreat, extremely dangerous.
Yeah, because if you see something that's red was always the color for a warning. And so a danger, just like our stop sign say, okay, you better stop or somebody's going to hit you going the other way. And so he explains to them it's important for you to make sure you know what red flags are, because men get caught up and have always historically got caught up with what they saw on the outside. The mistake that women are now making, they left being able to examine the man's heart and started focusing on the same thing men used to focus on. And now Grayson is saying to the men, you need to do a better job of examining this woman's heart. And so he talks about the ruby, the lazy woman, the microwave woman. He also asked questions. He said, now we have to start asking those questions that we used to wait and ask during pre-marriage counseling session. He said, we can't wait that late now. You have to ask some of those very profound questions in the very beginning so you can get an idea of who you are dating. And that's very important.
Can we, Dr. Velma, can we say what those questions are? You know, can we highlight what he said? Because I felt just with him saying that, I was like, I don't know if I fit that myself, you know, but right now I probably do.
You
You
want
know,
me to go
but
into the book a little bit? Let
yeah,
me grab my
just
chapter.
let him
Okay.
know when he said that, you know, those things. But I want to say, while you're looking for that, some
Uh-huh.
notes that I wrote down. There were 12 things when he talked about him. The woman, you know, what she should be. She should be caring, studious, virtuous, honorable,
Yes.
respectable, kind-hearted, patient, not agitated, good morals, work well with others, empathy, grace, uh, uh, practice. Wait, what am I saying? Uh, I can't read that right now, but forgiveness and commitment. That was another one. He's practical,
Yeah.
forgiveness and committed. And
Yes.
so when I thought about these, I thought about, I'm not saying, but what I thought about was the fruits of the spirit when he started rattling off these things.
I'm gonna pull this up for you in just a moment. Hold on just a minute.
But that was something else. But when he was asking them questions, one of them he asked, you know, do you have some mental issues?
Well, that's important because if
I'm like,
there's some underlying issues, you want to know what they are. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's a no, but it just, you want to know that the person has gotten the support they needed, the help they needed, all of that, and have been able to manage whatever the challenges are. All of that doesn't necessarily mean. Now, if you do have some and you've done nothing with it, you've got no help, then you know that's a person that's just going to flow with whatever their mind tells them to do. But there are a lot of people that are experiencing healthy lives in a marriage with some of those challenges because they've been able to get them under control and manage them. So it's not that you cannot. You just
right.
want to be aware and not be caught off guard with any of these things.
Oh, and I just wanted to know what would the woman's response be if they asked her. So, like they said, the men, they're not really asking questions, but to ask these questions, it was really uh, breathtaking in a way. But I was just thinking, as a reader, hearing that, would they really say? Because we ask some bold questions, you know, do you
Mm-hmm.
have figures? We don't really ask about what your mama did, who she did, you know, I'm not.
Right.
But at the same time, this wife that you marry, she's going to have to contend with your mom's personality. And if she's not that strong woman that knows how to at least be cordial or have a wonderful relationship with his mom, then you're going to have two women fighting over you.
Yep.
And we saw that.
Yep.
We saw that with the narcissistic.
Well, I am going to pull up the chapter 1, but I thought that I could, and I haven't been able to.
Mm-hmm.
But I am going to address all of those questions in a surprise. And
Okay.
that is because I had a homework basket for the first book. I have to be able to capture some of the things that Grayson is talking
Oh,
about and going into more detail with all of these questions. I don't include a lot of these questions in the book, but they will be in the book that will follow this, kind of similar to
that's
the
going to be
homework
good.
basket.
That's going to be good.
I'm calling it the conference guide, the conference packet, because that's what Grayson keeps referring to. He said, look at the copy in your conference packet.
Yeah,
So
he does.
it is coming, and I will have all of those
Oh, that'll
questions
be great.
on there.
That'll be.
And I was looking at, I said, I got it up now. He didn't go into specific details, though he talked about the woman of worth, which he said, a wow. Stop looking for a fake diamond. You don't want a Cupid zirconia, is what he told the men. That's when he told them about looking for a ruby. But he goes into 2 examples of the surveys he did with the men. And here's the catch about the surveys. I actually surveyed men to write this book. So those surveys are actual responses from the men I surveyed. So when you see that in Grayson's opening presentation, when you see that about the microwave woman and the other issues one man talked about in terms of looking for a godly woman and she wanted to sleep with him, and he was like, wait a minute, did you say?
Yes.
Or the woman who never picks up her Bible but claims to be a Christian, never prays but she claims. And these were concerns these men actually raised. And so I threw them into the book, added them to the book because I thought it was really profound. And so that gave me what Grayson needed to build his conversation around in terms of the men that were at this conference. And he actually takes the survey and then he explains what many of them mean. So the first survey, he talks about the importance of baggage, dealing with that, the woman, the microwave woman, the mental health issues. He said the tough questions, that's what they're going to be called in the book, in the workbook. The tough questions to determine the truth about her and her family. And that's those questions I talked about that normally when you look at them, you're going to say, man, this is important to ask before I make a decision about this person. And that's why I cover them. I'm working on those now. He talks about the lazy woman and the liar, the one who tricks the man into believing that she can do what she can do. That's starting your relationship based on the lie. And who wants a liar as a mate? And then he talks about the importance of her supporting her husband, that the description is the opposite of love that he saw in this survey. And it showed a woman that was very selfish. He said there's a 4-letter word for that. It is FOOL, fool. And then he says that, and then one case, unequally yoked was raised in the survey. And he said, well, that by itself is RED. Retreat, extremely dangerous. You're not supposed to be. And so when he looked at that second survey, here's his recap. He said, someone who's always seeing negative. That was one concern that was raised. He said, and compares him to other men because she's dating other men at the same time. If she is, she's not dating seriously, because to date for marriage means you're going to do one guy at a time so that you can examine who this person is, and so should he. Do one person at a time. So should she. I'm sorry, Miss Ellen, that must be my dog over there playing and making noise.
No, I don't hear what you have. I do have, my son came in and I do have background noise. So okay, so
he covers this survey and goes into detail about it. And women who say they know God but are not growing at all and not doing anything to grow. The woman who likes to gossip about everybody, that's a red flag. One talked about the woman who wants to violate what she believes. No sex before marriage, but you claim to want to worship and serve God, but you want to disrespect your worship to God by doing this before you get married. And the woman who doesn't pray or read her Bible, and then the woman who says in the very beginning, she has already selected the church she wants to attend.
Yeah, now, you haven't even got. I see that a lot. Let's just talk about that right there. Right. I see that a lot. I see that a lot both ways. But when it comes to the woman, either one of them, the male, the wife or the husband, or either one of them, what I've seen, Dr. Velma, let's just start with the woman first. The woman, she's trying to save herself. She's trying to, go before God, and she's trying to do this, and she wants her friend to go to church with her. Let's say that they eventually get married. But she needed to look at first, if he say, come to my church, and he's hardly going, why would you fall into that? And then we see the same thing with the woman. Well, come to my church, come to they. So they think it's not important, but it is. We do see that.
First of all, how can you demand that? You can't demand anything at this stage. It should be a conversation. What's your goal once we're married? Is your goal for us to explore churches together? That's one of those tough questions. What's your plan once we're married? Do we move and get our own place, or do we choose one of the places we're in? And that's two of the things both surveys covered. The financial health of the person. Have you ever suffered lack? Have you ever lost your place? Those are important things. How do you handle your money? Do you have challenges with that? Those are all very important telling things, tough questions to talk about, because, if she can't manage her money, or she had a tough time and you watched her turn those things around, that tells you she can manage it. She's able to manage her livelihood. So those are questions you want to know, because again, you're liable to be dumped on like poor Marcus was, with a person that didn't care anything about where the money was going, as long as money was coming in. And so you want to make sure you have a person that can handle money as well.
Let's talk
So
about
those
this
are really.
one. Let's talk about this one particular person.
Mhm.
Uh, we may go with a part two with her, but this one particular person, and they'll be able to read it, is when she just had to have her friends.
Yes, that is the I remember that's one of my favorite characters, by the way. She let me pull her up because I've seen that before. She's the one that puts her husband first. She's the vampire bat, and the
Yes,
vampire bat,
vampire bat.
yeah, the vampire bat makes the friends, the women, her priority, her friends, her priority. She'll give blood to them, and who cares about who her husband is at the time. And so this is what happens. He meets this girl, and she's been traveling all over the place with her friends. She does everything with her friends, and then he realizes, he thought after he married her, all of that would change. Her friends are hanging out at the house all the time. When they do spend the night, she's in the room with them, having a good time. So it kind of leaves him on the sideline. And he tells her, basically, I didn't know I married you and your friends.
Right.
And those are things that women need to get a handle of, because they're friends I don't have anymore.
Mm-hmm.
If they can't be my friend and my husband's, then that tells me that wasn't someone I needed to keep in my circle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same for my husband. Anybody that would remain his friend, Miss Wendy said, that's crazy.
That's crazy.
It can't be. And so we always say, it's not Velma's friend. It has to be our friend. Mm-hmm. It's not Bruce's friend. It has to be our friend. Anything outside of that, that's someone we don't want in our circle, because then you get into trouble with those kind of things. And they're your so-called friends that will try to take your husband. And so you have to be aware of that.
He mentioned that.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. I do, on purpose, because we get these crazy ideas, and everybody's not happy for you when you get married. There's some of your single friends are not happy. And so they will begin to show that they're not happy. So it's about using wisdom. And this is when he said, well, and so you have to be mindful, because Mabel next door, like the microwave woman, Mabel next door will hand your husband a plate.
She will.
So you better be careful of taking a position of what you're not going to do.
Dr. Velma, are you able to go to when he talked about the prophet, the king? Because this day and time, they use king differently. It's in the worldly, loose type king. So they gave definitions of what the prophet mean, and it all was biblical, where you had God, as the head, and you had the prophet who covers the wife, and the priest. So I wanted to just go into that, where we can see that definition, and it was just eloquently put.
He talks about it at the beginning of the conference on day one, where he tells the men that it's important for them to understand their mandate to love their wives as Christ loved the church. Marriage was always supposed to be the picture of that. And boy, we're doing a miserable job out here in the world. We're doing a miserable job of presenting those examples. And so the mandate to love your wife as Christ loved the church. And he said, making your assignment the same as his. And so that's where we fail. Because the way I love my husband, the way I treat my husband, I should always have God in mind in my actions.
Right.
I should be doing it as God would expect me to do. Yes, you love them because that's your heart, but you should still be honoring God in how you treat your husband or how he treats you. And so he talks about the threefold. And remember, there's a threefold cord, but then there's the threefold assignment: the prophet, priest, and king. And so the first thing he talks about is the fact that how can he be the prophet, priest, and king, and he doesn't even have a relationship with God?
Right.
So the very first scripture about a fool is, a fool has said there is no God. So if that's him, then that's your red, R-E-D, retreat, extremely dangerous, because he doesn't even know God. So he doesn't have access to him. So how can he pray? How can he hear as the prophet hears from God? How can he be the priest of the home, as someone be an example of Christ? How can he be the king and be the responsible one of the home that he's supposed to be? Because the bottom line for a man We all will stand before God and give an account of our decisions and what we've done. But a man who has a wife and family has to stand and give an account for not only
Yeah.
himself, but what he did with what God gave him, his family, his wife, and his family. So it's important for us to understand they have a heavy load on their shoulders, and they will have to give an account for all of that when they meet Christ face to face. And so a man's threefold office, he said, reflects the same duties as Jesus. The prophet is the one who communicates with God. As a priest, he's the one who prayerfully covers his family. And as the king, he's the one who provides and protects his family. One of the most romantic and beautiful, loving things I watch my husband do is to get up every morning and he falls down on his face on the side of the bed and honors the one who's bigger than him. Every man should be able to do that. And now doesn't have to fall on the bed, on the floor, but at least at the beginning of your day, acknowledge the one who's bigger and greater than you, and then present yourself and your family before him. And so it's beautiful. And so a man who doesn't know God cannot handle those three roles, because God will not listen to a sinner's prayer unless it's confession.
So true, because that's what my husband does each morning before he's off to work. He grabs my hand and he prays before he leaves. Every morning he prays before he leaves. And so there's some things that we have to understand. And you and I have been married 31 years for me and
49 for me.
49 for you. And so the world gets to think that, or they think that marriage is to have the guy ownership to ourselves. What's wrong with that is that you have them to yourself, and what we're doing is we're just smothering them with ownership. We don't have anything about God, anything about the threefold code. And marriage, Dr. Velma, you can vouch for this. It's not unto happiness, it's unto holiness. And it's the symbol. It is the symbol that God has made. We could care less about marriage. We didn't coin it. We did not coin marriage.
If we looked in the copyright, if we look at the copyright records of over thousands of years ago, we'll see who coined it. We'll see who designed it, and we'll see whose name is on it.
And so one thing we're not looking at too, as being married, you got some things that you have to naturally cover with the devices on the outside as far as him. And this is what we're not covering, is spiritually. We're not fighting the spiritual ground for our spouses. And there are so many spiritual battles that happen that we have not covered, because we have to cover that through God.
That's right.
Because we are fighting things.
Right.
And so you could say as a wife, oh, my husband tell me everything. Dr. Velma, I don't want to know everything. And that might sound crazy, because I can't help him. I can't do. There's some man stuff that he needs to talk to about a man. And
I'd rather he tell him everything.
Yes. What do we do as a wife when he tells us that? We're like thinking about it. We're like trying to fight it for him, and we get it all messed up. And he just wanted to tell us. He's like, look, that's putting more on our emotional plate, because you know how we are about our husbands. That's some common stuff. There's some common stuff that we need to know that you should have told your wife so you could fight together. We need to do that.
We're not God. That's right. When we're not God. And so again, going to the one who's bigger and greater than us.
Yeah.
And that's who does it. And one of the things I remember having conversations with my daughters about is making sure that he knows God. Because in those cases, I said, then you have to learn to trust the God in him. Trust God in him. Because if you trust God in him, God is going to always be the one that's orchestrating change and making sure that he does what he should do. God is not going to allow him to go left. And so you have to trust God in him, which is why it's important that God is present in his life as well as yours. Just like I'm trusting God in my husband, he's trusting God in me.
That is so true. I'm sorry. I got to messing with things, and I think I might be too bright. I don't know. But
I don't know. You changed a different color, that's for sure.
I got so much red in me. I'm just a red girl.
Oh, that's okay.
Oh, my goodness.
It's the Indian coming out.
Dr. Velma, I don't know where we at on time, and could you tell me?
About 7:31 now.
Okay, your time. Wendy, could you put the time there? So I won't.
10:31 your time.
Okay, good. We still have enough time. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, Dr. Velma, I so appreciate you with telling us as Big C as church, because we had no guidelines for dating. We still don't. We're still
Yeah.
not talking about it.
Yeah.
And so Kurt Franklin said, I don't know if you remember this, when he was younger, this was some years ago, he had said that he had came to, I'll just say, a spiritual authority, a man of God, pastor, deacon, whatever. I don't know what the title that was. And he just plainly say, I'm having these sexual thoughts, I'm having these things. And he was walked away with, oh, that's normal. Okay. So why didn't we talk about that? We don't talk about, we talk about marriage. You know, it's better to marry than to burn, but we don't talk about how. And so I think personally, most of those dating, to me and what I've seen, is when you do ministry together. Then that way you have ministry together, you have same like things, and then you don't have to have this common side door where your flesh is crying and all this stuff, and you want to do something about your flesh because you had more pay attention to your flesh. But if you do ministry together, it makes you have that's how we do it in church. It makes you have a common thing. You really start liking each other because that ministry that you're doing. But on the outside of that, the dating thing is, what do you do, where you work at, and all that stuff.
Well,
But we're not
I just
saying
want
how to
I just
in our church.
want to say that in response to that, there was a man in the scripture that God killed for doing that, for spilling his sperm on the ground. And God values the seed. He values it. And when you're wasting it like that, you better be very careful. God takes it very seriously. And so I quickly pulled it up on my computer so that I can reference it for you. He did actually kill, and that was in Genesis 38:9, because of the fact that the seed is important. And that's part of the problem we have in the world today. We don't understand the value that God places in every part of every aspect of this, from our dating to married, to our getting married, our commitment that we make on that day. The covenant we enter into is not just with our husband and ourselves, but it's a threefold. We entered it with before God. We're committing this before God. And so there's so many elements of this that God holds special, uh, spiritual connections to what we do and how we manage our lives. All of that, just like you talked about the sperm. What was God's intent in the very beginning? How does God value a man's sperm and seed? All of that, the woman's seed, all of that. The fact that history has shown, medical science showed that multiple partners affects your ability to have children later on in life, because they said there's a hormone that's released from the very first one. Let me show you what God has built into our bodies. There's a hormone that's released from the woman at the very first one she has, that's supposed to be her husband being the very first one. And somehow it affects her ability, the body, to recognize any other seed after that first one. So she can't conceive. She has trouble with having a child with the one that she finally marries. And so medical science, I remember doing the research when I wrote my first book. It said that a lot of these women have infertility issues because of that hormone that blocks any seed beyond that first one that she had. And so it's really interesting, some of the intricacies that God has built into all of it. It's not as simple as the world makes it look like. You just march down the aisle and get a piece of paper and that person is your mate. No, God has so much more built in what he wants us to have in a marriage relationship. And just like you said, it's spiritual. And so therefore, it doesn't belong to me and my husband, Bruce. It belongs to God. This doesn't belong to me. We have the benefits of it, having a partner in a relationship, but it is to glorify God. And so that's where we need to keep it.
I was looking at some, Dr. Bama. This is kind of like on a different page, but I was looking at us as women. And I was looking at the man. When it comes to like us the man is already, as a boy, you could call him Mr. As us, we have to be joined to someone. So when we're joined to someone, that's when we become Mrs., MRS. We become MRS. So what I was looking at, Dr. Velma, is that us women, when we have babies, we're joined into that man's generation. It does not bring generation into our family. Like, it's carrying on his generation.
Mm-hmm.
But with the son, he brings the generation within the family.
Because he has the seed.
He has the seed.
The male carries the seed. There's a reason God did it that way.
Oh,
We're
that just
the
blew me
receivers.
away.
Even the way our bodies are built, we're receivers.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is a lot of stuff. It's just, even to our body, God just want us, I'm speaking from a perspective of being married. The single life nowadays, Lord bless them, Lord, is all I can say, because I don't understand this dating thing that's happening now, where things are unintentional. Like you say, make it intentional. And so we get a lot of these things that's going on, unintentional families, because you were just kicking it and then just leaving, all these things like that. But in
Girl,
and just like you said, in our church family, we're not doing any better.
We're not teaching and promoting. You're telling people to get married, but you're not preparing and training them to do so. Or to know how to expect an attack upon your marriage. Because it's a spiritual thing, you can expect spiritual attacks.
Yes.
So when there are things that happen between my husband and I, a lot of people see their mates as the problem, or their mate as the issue. It's not. You have a faceless enemy. We need to quit trying to put a face on it.
That's right.
And really, and that enemy you can't wrestle because it's not flesh and blood. So you have to do it the way you're supposed to, like you talked about earlier, going into prayer. That's warfare right there. Your prayer can be warfare in itself. And so it's important for you to understand what you need to do when those issues happen, so you don't get into the blame game, because you need to blame who really is at fault. The minute you talk about trying to maintain unity and agreement, the enemy is already launching a plan to try to disrupt that unity and agreement.
That is it.
The fact that my husband gets down on the floor, your husband prays, the enemy will try to disrupt that prayer in the morning to try to stop the alarm from going off on time, so he'll rush out of the house, whatever he can do.
Let me tell you something. While we were traveling, we enjoy each other so much. So this is something that we're learning as marriage. You're forever learning each other. Yeah. So he said he don't mind me sharing this. So we're on our vacation, and we're having a good time. The moment, like you said, that unity. So we go in the store, we buy a hat that still have they forgot to take the clamp off of it, right? We walk out the store, he goes off, he like, come on, let's just keep going, everything's all right. Then when we get where we're going, he said the clamp is on. I was like, I tell you. So now he's being irritated. That's the irritation that I'm trying to say something. Then we move a little further, and then he said, you know what? He says, I'm sorry for being combative. So we go from there, and I don't say nothing. But check this out, though, Dr. Velma. During the process of that, I'm just quiet. And I think if I would have popped off, it wouldn't have been so pleasant, where he would just confess that he's being combative.
You know what you did, Miss Ellen? You trusted God in him. Yes. And you showed him some grace. We don't know how to show grace, and we got to show grace in our marriage. You kept quiet. You showed him grace, so that God in him can help him figure it out. That
is so true. That is the most important. So we go a little further, Dr. Velma, and then we sit down and we get ready to eat. We found us a little restaurant. We headed back home. We're getting ready to eat, and we look at each other, and we was like, "What? Are we talking?" Yes, we're talking. That right there, that was something else. And we get in a restaurant, we sit down, they say, y'all ordering something? We say, yeah. And I said, are we ordering? Then we both started laughing. And so the waitress, she was laughing. And then we got a chance to share with her, not knowing she was married. And so she said, you know what? Me and my husband, we did the same thing. I got on his natural nerves, and he said, give me 5 minutes. And he
Oh,
walked on and they got back and they was together. See, folks don't understand the power
no.
of that forgiveness and walking forward.
And
Just
grace.
because that happened and you have an argument,
Yeah.
don't mean you go to the woman next door and soothe the pain. You just get together and you just talk about it. It's
I love
they
it.
don't know. They don't
I love it.
understand me. They don't
Now
understand
you
marriage.
understand why I have to present these stories the way I present them.
Yes.
Because there are people that are going to see themselves in the story, male and female. And I'm grateful that the men asked me to do that because it was really fun writing these characters. Very easy for me, really.
And like we said on
our
other talk, Dr. Velma,
mm-hmm.
the characteristics and metaphors of who we are, it shows me that there's a lot of warped emotional things that happen to us that we want to just blame it all on the man.
Mm-hmm. It's not.
But just like you said, the antelope, the hyena, that fascinates me, and the things about the hyena. And then you're talking about the black widow and just
Now,
these characters.
in the case of the hyena, we had two stories.
Yes, the white hyena and the other.
The wife, and then the daughter.
When you described the anatomy, I could not believe it. You know what I had to do? I know you wouldn't lie in your story. I actually went to YouTube University, looked at the hyena, and lo and behold, it was true.
Yep. I was shocked when I discovered it because when I was looking for animals or insects to match the characters, I was shocked when I discovered that. I said, all this time, everybody said, oh, look at the laughing hyena. She's not laughing.
She's barking orders.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to talk about her anatomy or let them read it in the book?
It's okay if you want to.
Yeah, tell them about the anatomy.
Tell them prepared for your questions.
Tell them about the anatomy of a hyena.
I sure will. One of the things that I wanted to mention is the fact that it's the female that leads the whole clan. And so we think that she's laughing, but she's not. She's giving the charge and barking her orders to the rest of the clan. And that's what's so interesting, the spotted hyena. That's what's so interesting. And that's the reason I try to give at the beginning of each of those stories some background about why I chose that particular title. And it says that we call it laughing, but she's not laughing. It is a loud complaining female hyena who leads the clan and barks orders as she leads them. The spotted hyena is very muscular and more aggressive than the males. They have 3 times as much testosterone in their bodies than the males and are bigger and more dominant than the males. Larger females will direct the rest of the group or packs. In terms of where they go, that's what she tells them. Females are the leaders and will lead them into battle or when establishing a clan. I said, when I read that, I said, oh my gosh, that's one of the characters. And not only that, we have 2 hyenas in the story, the mother and then the daughter. And that's a different element too in the stories to show how you can have this behavior and teach those coming up under you, your children, the same kind of behavior, because that's exactly what her daughter became.
But they were also talking about how even when it came to him wanting to be the disciplinary, she wouldn't even let her husband discipline her own sons.
No. And the fact that she came from a large family, remember clans stick together.
Yes.
Those siblings will defend each sibling. If one sibling got into a trouble with someone, all the siblings got involved. So that man had to escape quietly.
He did. He did have to escape.
He had to get out of there because he knew that if he did what he did in leaving her, that he would have to deal with all those siblings, and he was not going to deal with that. So at least he knew about that. But I love the fact that it was the father telling the story.
I love that too.
And Grayson talking about men who escaped their family home because of all the trouble there. They spend extra hours at work. They ask for overtime, anything they can do to avoid going home. And he said, even some of you guys are the reason why there's certain businesses that are growing in every town. I said, oh my gosh.
And they were like, what you know about us, Pastor? How you know?
Right. Basically, you calling us out, Pastor.
Yeah. Even with that, with her, the husband happened to escape. I also seen that he loved his son, but he had to leave it all. He had to leave his family just for peace, so he could have peace.
It was too dangerous for him. Who
And you know what?
knows?
The men, when I read that, Dr. Velma, I started thinking about men.
Mm-hmm.
We as women, we could talk about our trauma. We can go tell our girlfriends about our trauma. But what he's going through, the men are not going to listen to it. They're learning now with Grayson telling them, but they're not even going to tell you, because what does it look like a man raises his hand and say, my wife, she beat me up. She won't let me have my money. She pulls my paycheck. They're going to say, well, you need to stand up and be a man.
Well, there is a certain segment in the story where Grayson deals with that. The importance of not, he said, we're raised and we're taught as men not to allow that aggressive side to ourselves to come out. He said, we're taught to be a man, but don't unleash on your wife or your children. He said, so what happens as a result is we tend to hold it all in. So Grayson talks about that in the story. And so he said, we cannot do that. You have to have an outlet. He said, look around the room. All the men here are here to support you. I'm here if you need to talk to me. He said, but don't hold it in. He said, but you can't let the dogs out. And they start barking. They all start barking with pumping their fists. He said, never, ever let those dogs out. He said, so you got the pressure at home, pressure at work, pressure in the world. But what you don't want to do is to allow those things to cause those dogs to come out. He said, but what you don't want to do either is to hold those feelings in. And as men, he said, that's what we tend to do. And so Grayson spent some time talking to the men about that and making sure that they have a way to allow that out, because of the fact that they're committed to not unleashing on the people they love, but they have to have a way of talking it out with someone else. So that's why it's important.
Hello to I want to bring out some more things, but hello to Marsha, Jacqueline, and I think I saw Denise up there. Hello to you ladies. We're talking about Dr. Velma's book. Another thing that I thought about while we were talking about this is that when he talked about the police, the woman could be in the wrong. You call the police, they gonna get you.
Did you like? And it's in the news
so
right now. Did you
so
hear?
True. I be
news.
joking with my husband, right? My husband is dark. You see pictures with us, Frank. He's dark skinned. And I told him, I put my arm up because my skin's a little lighter than his up in here. I put it up to his. And I said, babe, you know, with your skin next to mine, I can call the police.
But that's a thing now. That's the reason I included that in one of the stories. That's a thing now. The women will be quick to claim that the guy abused her and it wasn't him at all. It's in the story. It's in the news now with one of the actors, and it turned out it was the woman all along. And so knowing that happens now, that seems to be a thing. I said, let me include that in here because people need to know everybody in law enforcement is trying to be sensitive to what a woman goes through. But there are some women that's taking it beyond that and lying and filing false police reports against the man just to get the upper hand. I think that's pretty crazy.
It is. It is. We saw that in, I don't know if you've seen it, Lynn Whitfield, Love, Thin Line Between Love and Hate, with Martin. She was injuring her own self and saying that he did it.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of stuff. We can't just take control thinking that we're getting married just to control. And one thing that I see too on television, when they, a lot of the social media and everything, the guy proposed to the girl, he's on one knee, and what happened, the same thing with her. So they go up and they just show the ring. They leave the man, walk away from the man and just show the ring. Right. And nothing has transpired. You could be engaged, good morning, you could be engaged for some women for 15 years.
Yep. And why? Why is that?
So
why are you engaged for 15 years?
That's crazy. That is so crazy. But what is the goal? We have to think about, what is the goal? What is the goal of the marriage? And nowadays it look like the goal is just to have the man. There's no preparation, like one of the characters say, that I didn't know. I didn't talk to her. I knew that I wanted to marry her, but I didn't talk to her whether she knew how to clean up, whether she knew how to be a wife. I didn't think about those things. She was just beautiful.
Right. Right. The story you were talking about, referring to, was the Firefly. And she's one of the narc women. She's the one that was a little taller than her husband.
Yeah.
And they were arguing in the kitchen, and she had that knife. Every word, she was going in his chest with that knife. Yes. And he turned around and picked her up. And she was shocked because she thought because she was taller, he wasn't as strong as he was. And he showed her he was. And that's why Grayson went into the detail about making sure, as men, he was managing the dogs, as Grayson talked about. He was managing those. He could have unleashed on her any time, but he didn't. He was still trying to be respectful until she started hitting him in the chest with that knife with every word she was speaking to him. And so he had to pick her up and let her know, no, this is not going there.
He got the knife so he could have the evidence with fingerprints.
Right.
Covered up.
Right.
But that was crazy. Yeah, that is crazy.
That was. She was the one that in this story, this was her second marriage. She told everybody around town that her first husband was abusive. And this is David. He discovered it wasn't the husband. She had filed that false police report. This was the Firefly who filed that false police report on her first husband, claiming he was abusive. And he wasn't the abuser at all. She was the aggressor.
He was.
And this man got out of there safely before she tried to do something with him. But that day they were in the kitchen arguing, and she started stabbing him, just poking him with the knife. Oh yeah, he got out of that. That was that was that was definitely a different character for me, but that was the Firefly.
Wow. Hello to you, Miss Queenie, our literary ambassador, Dr. Velma. That's why I say, you dealing with us women, I'm not going to say it's harsher, but it's definitely bold. It's definitely bold, and we need to pay attention to how we are called on the red carpet. We was laughing, hey, fish this, he's a salmon, he's a blah. But that was,
look at that catfish, the pufferfish.
Yeah, but then when it came to us,
have no idea that this is what we present out there. This is what a lot of women present, and you want a husband.
I love the way you say that, and you want a husband. And in your book also, Pastor Grayson, he have us to examine ourselves individually before we come together.
Yes.
We're not telling some truth. We're just happy. This man looks good. I want to marry him. For what? To bring him in my world. For what? Then what we do, Dr. Velma, we're dating, and we're dating, treating the date like a husband. Now we're tired because we're doing wife stuff. And I'm not just talking about sex. I'm talking about treating him like top sirloin husband, and you're dating him.
Somebody asked me, how soon should I cook for him? I said, not at all. Why are you cooking? That's the guy. Because I tell you, I say, you got to be careful with those cooking, women cooking too early, because you don't know what she's slipping in there, and you don't know her yet. She could be slipping something in there to make you or force you to attach yourself to her. So be very careful.
Oh my goodness. That's probably what my mom, remember I told you my mom didn't, even though we were her daughters, we could not cook. So she came from the Mississippi, the old school ways. And so she did not go for that.
No.
But I wanted to bring up too, like being married and the women, like you say, now that you have the man, now what are you going to do with him? You got him there. The goal, I guess, was to get the man, but there's no preparation for marriage. And we're not thinking what it really means.
Well,
what does marriage really mean?
They presented themselves one way and then revealed their true character after they were married. And that's the whole key to most of these stories. 9 stories, most of them occurred that way, that they presented themselves one. The only one that really had some truth in it is the church doll.
I haven't gotten there yet. I got to
Okay,
catch
I'm
up
not
more with that.
going to tell you much about her.
Because I be talking too much, so I had to stop right there. So I'm on, is it 10 chapters in this book?
There's 10 chapters, 9 characters.
Okay, so I'm at 6. I'm at the halfway mark. I'm at the 6.
Okay. You're
okay.
in the narcissistic women then.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Wait till you get to the people pleaser.
With the way that the media streets are going, I'm seeing in the dating streets on Dr. Velma, is that I see different videos and sometimes I just take glimpses of stuff and it's just too overwhelming. But I'm seeing men that they go on a date or either they're in their home and they make dinner for the girl. And the girls are saying, I don't need for you to make me no dinner. I'm supposed to be out and top of the line steak and this like that. And I seen one particular guy, he was a white guy and she's a black girl. She said, I am so pretty. I don't need you to take me this. You know what he did? While she was popping off her mouth and they were just dating, he had her to get in the car and he dropped her off and he kept it moving. He said, I'm not going to deal with this.
Look, that's book number 1, except it was the guy. That's book number 1, where the woman was too pushy and had only known the man for 2 weeks. So he climbed out of the window of the restaurant to get out of there. And so it's not always the men. It really isn't. She had her sights and ready to marry the guy in 2 weeks. And he's like, wait a minute, this is too soon.
It's not.
Yeah.
So what do you want to say to us women in regard to this book? And definitely we are, the Bible tells us, oh, I want to go back before I finish that. Because you just brought to my mind when we were talking about being married. I want to talk about Joseph in the Bible. So I'm good. I can say this to you. Joseph wanted Rachel so bad and he got Leah. So, and it was a trick. And we know it was a trick. So here's what I'm getting at. It should have been Leah. The reason why I say that because Rachel, all she wanted was the baby. She didn't want the man. She really didn't want the man.
Okay, Ellen. Let me just say this really quickly. Finish the story. Jacob's name was not changed to Israel until after she died.
Yes.
There was a reason for that, because he was moving into the season where she couldn't go with him. So you have to be very careful how you make these assessments when God can see very differently than how we see. So who knows that he was trying to fall in love with the wrong one? Who knows?
That's
Maybe
so true.
she wasn't the right one. She
so
wasn't
true.
the one that can go with him into the season of him taking charge of a whole nation. Maybe she wasn't that part. But I was shocked when it was brought to my attention, that segment, because it talks about the fact that just before he returned, because he had stolen from his brother, remember Jacob and Esau, before he returned, in scripture, shortly after she died, then God changed his name from Jacob to Israel, so that he can then begin to walk into who he was called to be. Some partners are not intended to go with you, and so that's why we have to be very careful. It's not just about us, it's spiritual. There's a work and there's a calling upon our lives, just like it was on the very first couple. God had a plan for Adam and Eve. They messed it up, but he did have a plan. Adam and Eve changed more than what we really see in their stories, because that was the only time God handed you everything you needed. You didn't have to do anything. You didn't have to earn it. You just take care of it. He handed. Now we go through a process. It's not handed anymore. And so whether it's building a marriage relationship or whatever it is, we go through a process. And in that process, that refiner's fire, God burns off what he cannot use so he can then take us to the place he's trying to take us. So that's all I got to say about
that. That was great. I love that, because I wanted That's why I say I can talk with you. I wanted to see that change. I wanted us to know that was a
Yeah.
change. That was a
He
change.
couldn't,
Like you
his
said, we
name
really can't
changed
say
after she died.
after. And just like Sarah being blessed after, there's something in the name. Just like I was saying earlier, we get married and we put on that characteristic of that person we've married to, their whatever's in their lineage, whatever is
Yeah.
there. So
Have
we
to be
have to be
careful.
careful. And like you said, Abraham never did see the promise. He just asked his servant man, do me a
And I was
favor.
going to say, you know, why are you shocked that your kids are acting crazy when you married a crazy man? I mean, what do you expect the seed to be? The seed can only be what it is.
That's so true.
If he was
Girl, you know.
crazy and you ignored all the red flags, yeah, your kids are going to be crazy because that's who they are.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it just takes, I mean, it's just foolishness out there. That's all I can say.
It is.
It's
So
foolishness out there. And we just need to bring back the right teaching and training and preparation so we can
much for that.
get better weddings, get better marriages.
Yes, because we did not hear of divorces in the church house. We did not. And also we know that they bared a lot.
Yeah, they did.
So that's why I say I wanted to thank you, Dr. Velma, for shining light on this and showing us how we're doing wrong. Now, like you said, my audience is the house of God. If this is not you, it's not for you.
That's all I can say. That's all I can say. I can only speak from what I know. Mm-hmm. Don't ask me about any other kind of relationship other than a man and a woman. I don't know nothing about all of that. I can only talk about what I know and what I've been taught in the word, and that's it. That's my lane, and I'm not apologizing for my lane, but I'm just saying that's all I know.
Exactly.
And that's what I have to talk about.
Give us a takeaway. I say, I just love to order I just ordered mine this morning.
Yes! Thank you, Marsha. Woo!
Yes.
That's my friend.
Y'all
I'm missing you.
Y'all in for a treat. Make sure you got your tissue on side of you because you're going to be shocked of your own stuff. You dealt with us women. That's all I can say. You dealt with us. And I
expected your questions to be tough ones, Ellen, and you did not fail me. You did not fail me.
Thank you. Because this is something that we need to know. We got to stop playing around in the house of God. We got to stop it. Yeah. We're not going to adapt to the world's way of what you say it was like 200 years old or something like that. Adapting to this. Yeah. A dating process that's just over 200 years old. That's what we apply in the world today. When we have training and teaching that's over 2,000 years old that God has always given us, and we're just not following any of it. Give us a takeaway.
Well, you know, my takeaway would be my favorite is the church doll. And that's because I remember seeing a church doll growing up. And when you get to that story, you're going to be very surprised. But I'm thankful that she's the one redemption in this book. So that would be a takeaway. She's the only one.
And what do you want to say to those women that read this book or that just happen to stumble over this book? What do you want to say to those?
Well, I hope you find something in the story that really speaks to you. Especially, I love the things that Grayson says to the men. And so it's a lot women can learn from that, on how a man is prepared, on what a man is expected to be and do in his marriage, his threefold role that we talked about earlier. Those are all important things to know. And just to recognize some of the stuff that we have accepted is not really what you should be accepting. You recognize the importance of asking very profound questions when you're meeting someone. It's absolutely necessary.
It's a great read. It is a great read. And I'm not just saying it. You know that we do reviews. And I can't wait to finish and review this. But Dr. Velma, on Goodread, I can give you what I really want to say. But I don't know if you know this. On Amazon, we cannot talk about any religious.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah, that's okay.
So,
that's okay.
So you know that. I'm glad you know that.
That's okay.
So it'll be a
we
little
can say this is teaching and training that's needed in the world today. I mean, we can say that.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah. But I'll
We
go to my friend Goodread to give you the full blast.
Amazon is not God.
Nope, they're not. And so I found out from my first experience, and they said they emailed me and said that I've offended. I was like, what did I offend?
Yeah.
And some things you just can't say.
Yeah, that's their program.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Thank you for being here, Dr. Velma. We
Thank
look forward
you
to
for
having you
having
on.
me.
You're welcome. Look forward to having you on Wisdom, so we can recap. And we're not going to give it all away. We're
No.
just going to do some caps of some characters that we have there, and we're just not going to give it away. Let's see. Maybe that's why some of my reviews don't show up. Mine automatically post to both. Okay, that's why when you
Yep.
talking about religious reviews, you can't mention God or anything like that. It's going to be rejected.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We can say faith. We can say what we believe. We
Yep.
can say all those things to get around it.
That's right. That's exactly what I end up doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wrote a review the other day, and it took them 3 days to post it.
But did it post? Yes.
Yeah, it did.
Wow.
It did.
That's what
Thank
it
you
is.
for being here, Miss Marcia. Thank you, Miss
Thank
Allen.
you so
I
much.
look forward
Thank
to
you.
it.
Yep. So we'll meet again on Wisdom. That will be the November 1st.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, November 7th. Is it 7th? I need to get it together.
Yeah, because I have it on my calendar. Let me see what it
November
shows.
7th. That's what's coming.
Let me see, Miss Ellen.
It's coming to my head November 7th.
November 7th.
Yep. At 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll conclude there. And then also, if you guys are around on the 9th, I'll have Kimberly Lawson Roby right after you. So just want to put that there. So this is amazing. Continue to do what you do. I know you're not gonna let nobody tell you what to write. You're gonna write what you're supposed to write.
I have to be obedient. I do.
Yes.
I've been thinking about my next fish.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to finish the book. I know Miss Queenie's been pushing me. I got to finish that conference guide.
Oh, yeah.
Conference package. So you'll see those questions in there.
She told me to get it together, Bestie. We got it together. It's November 7th.
She said 2 powerhouses.
Thank
Amen.
you. Thank you so much.
Take
Have an amazing
care, dear.
evening. Have an amazing day, and see you November 7th.
You do the same.
Thank you so much for being here. All right. Bye-bye.
Appreciate you
as well. Thank you guys for being here again. Ellen Suddeth of ESP Presents and ESP Book Chats, where we bring page turners your way. So you guys, November 9th, get ready for that. We're going to have, this is a vintage book, and I do mean vintage. We're going to talk about Kimberly Lawson's first book, and it is Behind Closed Doors. That's going to be on Wisdom, audio only, and we look forward to that. Dr. Velma, this has been amazing, and we always have some hard questions back and forth. I'm glad she knows her Bibles, and I'm glad I'm doing mine too as well. This is our book of the month for those who are trying to figure out what is ESP Presents reading. ESP Book Chats, we are reading The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And in this book, I'll give you guys just a quick glimpse. In this book, we have reclusive Hollywood icon Evelyn Hugo is finally ready to tell the truth about her glamorous and scandalous life. But when she chooses unknown magazine reporter Monique Grant to write her story, no one is more astounded than Monique herself. Determined to use the opportunity to jumpstart her career, Monique listened in fascination. From making her way to Los Angeles in the 1950s to leaving show business in the 80s. And of course, the 7 husbands along the way. Evelyn unspools a tale of ruthless ambition, unexpected friendship, a great forbidden love. But as Evelyn's story nears its conclusion, it becomes clear that her life interests with Monique's own, and her life intersects with Monique's own in tragic and irreversible ways. So I guess you're going to say her one who writes her story, their life intersects. But thank you guys for being here. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.